Welcome to The Explainer. Sometimes you hear a powerful message, but have you ever stopped to wonder how it's built, how it actually works? Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're deconstructing a sermon called Keep On in Faith to really understand its architecture, how it builds this incredible, timeless argument for resilience.
So let's just jump right in. Everything we're about to unpack, it all hangs on this one single idea of constancy. This quote isn't just a nice closing thought, it's the anchor point for the entire message. And as we go, you'll see just how critical this idea of something or someone being unchanging is to the whole argument.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the problem, the crisis this sermon was addressing. Then, we'll break down the three pillars of its solution, the foundation of faith, the heritage of resilience, and what it looks like to live it out. And we'll wrap up with the ultimate promise that holds the whole thing together.
Okay, so to really get the power of this message, we have to rewind a bit. We have to understand who this was for and the intense situation they were in, because this wasn't written in a vacuum, not at all. It was a direct response to a real crisis.
And this is absolutely key. The audience wasn't just a group of curious onlookers. These were people who had taken a huge leap of faith, and now they were at a breaking point. They were on the verge of just giving up completely. So the stakes for this message, incredibly high.
And check this out, because it really paints a picture of the pressure cooker they were in. It was like they were fighting a war on two fronts. On one side, you've got the Roman Empire, the political superpower, seeing them as a potential threat. And on the other hand, you've got their own former religious community, who saw them as traitors. They were completely stuck in the middle.
So, with all that pressure, what's the answer? Well, the sermon's first move isn't just some generic pep talk. It's a very strategic call to get back to basics, to return to a solid, unshakable foundation. It's all about remembering not just what you believe, but who you believe in.
This right here is kinda the master stroke of the whole argument. It completely reframes what faith is. It's not a feeling that comes and goes with your circumstances. No, it's something grounded in a person who, the sermon claims, is consistent, historical, and powerful. When everything around you is shaky, you point to the one thing that isn't.
And it doesn't just leave that as a big, vague idea. It gets super specific. It lays out this powerful portrait of who Jesus is. And the logic is really simple but profound. If he was the co-author of the universe, then, and if he was the ultimate sacrifice, then, well, since he's unchanging, he's just as powerful for you right now, in the middle of your crisis.
Okay, so once that solid personal foundation is laid, the argument kind of pulls the camera back. It zooms out from the individual to this huge, sweeping historical view. It's about connecting your personal struggle to something much, much bigger.
And this is just a brilliant psychological move. By bringing up this great mass of witnesses, it's basically telling the listener, hey, you are not alone in this. What you're feeling, others have felt it. The struggles you're facing, others have faced them. And they made it through. It makes your fight feel less isolating and more like part of a legacy.
And look at this. This timeline just shows you the sheer scale of the chain it's building. It's incredible. It goes all the way back to biblical figures like Abraham and David, then moves through church history and even gets incredibly personal and local, referencing leaders from the West Indies. It makes this legacy feel both massive and deeply relevant.
All right, so we've got the solid foundation. We've got the historical backup. So what now? Well, this is where the sermon pivots hard. It moves from the why you should hold on to the how you actually do it, day in and day out. It boils this huge, complex idea of perseverance down into three really clear things you can actually do. It takes the abstract and makes it concrete. Instead of just saying, be faithful, it gives you a practical checklist.
But you might be thinking, okay, love each other. What does that actually look like, especially when I'm struggling myself? Well, the sermon anticipates that exact question, and it does not leave you hanging. And what's so wild about these examples is how they go against every natural instinct you'd have when you feel like you're under attack. Your gut says to hide, to hoard, to protect yourself. But this message says, no, do the opposite. Be generous, care for the outcasts, act with integrity. It's arguing that real faith is proven in these counterintuitive actions. So, you've got the foundation, you've got the history, and you've got the practical steps. But what's the engine driving this whole thing? What gives someone the power to actually do all this? Well, the sermon saves the ultimate assurance for last.
And it all comes down to this. This single promise, quoted from ancient scripture, is presented as the final, absolute guarantee. It's the bedrock underneath the foundation. It's the reason someone can even dare to try and live this way. And just like that, the whole argument comes full circle.
Remember that fear and doubt we talked about at the very beginning? The pressure from the Romans and the religious leaders? This is the final answer. It allows them to say, with total confidence, I will not be afraid.
So, what really makes a message like this last for centuries? When you take it apart like we just did, you see it's so much more than just a nice thought. It's a blueprint. It's a carefully constructed strategy for resilience that starts with a crisis, builds a foundation, connects you to history, gives you practical things to do, and grounds it all in an unshakable promise. It's designed not just to inspire you, but to actually equip you to keep going.